The clock in Windsor Castle struck 11:40-7. Kate Middleton stood alone in the East Gallery, her silk gown catching the moonlight through the tall windows. She had been summoned. A handwritten note delivered by a palisade an hour earlier. The message was brief and cold. My study. Midnight. Come alone. It was signed simply with a single letter. See? Kate's hands trembled slightly as she folded the note. In all her years as Princess of Wales, she had never received such a command. Not like this. Not at this hour. The tone felt wrong. Deliberate. Almost threatening. She knew what this was about. 3 days earlier, at a charity gala in London, something had happened. A moment so brief that most people missed it entirely. But the cameras caught it. And by morning, the clip had spread across social media like wildfire. Queen Camilla had been speaking to a group of donors when Kate quietly approached to join the conversation. The Queen had turned, looked directly at Kate, and said something under her breath. The microphones didn't pick it up. But Kate's face had changed. Just for a second, a flash of shock, then a carefully controlled smile. The headlines exploded. What did Camilla say to Kate? Royal tension caught on camera. Body language expert reveals hidden palace feud. Kate hadn't responded publicly. She never did. But the silence only made the speculation grow louder now. Walking through the dimly lit corridors of the castle, Kate felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her. The marble floors echoed with each step. Portraits of long-dead royals watched from the walls. Their eyes shadowed and severe. She reached the heavy oak door of the Queen's private study. Her hand hovered over the brass handle. Part of her wanted to turn around, to refuse this late-night meeting, to stand her ground in the morning, in daylight, with witnesses, but that wasn't how the palace worked. Power here moved in shadows, in whispered conversations and unspoken rules. To refuse would be to declare war. Kate took a breath and pushed open the door. The study was darker than she expected. A single lamp burned on the mahogany desk. Queen Camilla sat behind it, perfectly still, her expression unreadable. She wore a deep emerald dressing gown, her hair pulled back, makeup flawless despite the hour. She didn't stand, didn't offer a greeting. Close the door, Camilla said quietly. Kate did. The latch clicked like a gunshot in the silence. Sit. Kate remained standing. I prefer not to. Camilla's eyes narrowed just slightly. A muscle in her jaw tightened. For 5 long seconds, neither woman moved. Then Camilla leaned forward, folding her hands on the desk. Her voice dropped lower, softer, but with an edge sharp enough to cut. You've made things very difficult this week. Kate said nothing. She kept her face calm, neutral. Inside, her heart pounded. That moment at the gala, Camilla continued, has become a problem. People are asking questions. The press won't let it go. And now the king is being asked to comment. I didn't say anything, Kate replied evenly. Exactly. Camilla's smile was cold. You didn't defend me. You didn't clarify. You just stood there and let the world imagine the worst. Kate felt the accusations settle between them like poison. This was the game. Twist the narrative. Make Kate the villain for her silence. But something inside Kate shifted. A quiet, dangerous resolve. She took one step closer to the desk. Her voice stayed soft, but every word landed with precision. Perhaps the world imagined correctly. The air in the room changed instantly. Camilla's expression flickered. Just for a heartbeat, surprise, then fury. But before she could respond, Kate spoke again, her tone still calm, still measured, but now laced with something that made the Queen Consort's eyes widen. And if you ever summon me like this again, at midnight, with veiled threats and games, you'll discover just how much worse I can make things for you. The silence that followed was deafening. Kate turned and walked to the door. Behind her, Camilla's voice rang out, sharp and commanding. We are not finished. Kate paused, her hand on the door handle. She didn't turn around, as she said quietly. We are. And then she was gone, leaving the Queen Consort alone in the flickering lamplight, stunned into silence. Kate's heels clicked against the marble as she moved through the empty hallways. Her breathing was steady, controlled. But inside, adrenaline surged through her veins like electricity. She had just done the unthinkable. She had challenged the queen consort, walked out on her, refused her authority. There would be consequences. Kate knew that. But something had snapped in that room. Years of silent endurance, of biting her tongue, of watching Camilla position herself as the true power behind the throne. It had all come crashing down in one moment, and Kate had chosen herself by the time she reached her private chambers. Her phone was already buzzing. 12 missed calls, all from the same palace number. The king's private secretary. Kate ignored them. She locked the door behind her, slipped off her heels, and stood at the window overlooking the castle grounds. The moon hung low over the gardens, casting long shadows across the perfectly manicured lawns. She felt strangely calm now, clear as though some invisible weight had been lifted. But she wasn't naive. She knew what would come next. The machine would turn against her. Whispers in the press. Anonymous palace sources questioning her loyalty. Stories about tension with the king. Suggestions that Kate was becoming difficult, ungrateful. It was the oldest play in the book. Her phone rang again. This time, a different number. William. Kate answered on the second ring. Where are you? His voice was tight, urgent. In my room. What the hell happened? I just got a call from Father's office. Camilla is furious. She's saying you walked out of a meeting. That you were disrespectful? Kate closed her eyes. Of course, Camilla had already begun spinning the story, making herself the victim. She summoned me at midnight, Kate said quietly, to intimidate me, to make me apologize for something I didn't do. Kate, she wanted to control the narrative about the gala, to make me take the blame for the speculation, and when I refused, she tried to threaten me. There was silence on the other end. Kate could hear William breathing, processing. What did you say to her? He asked finally. I told her the truth, that if she ever tries something like that again, I'll make sure the world knows exactly who she is. Another pause. Longer this time. Then William's voice came back, softer now. Almost admiring, you threatened the queen consort. I stood up for myself. Kate, this is going to get ugly. You know that, don't you? I know. William sighed deeply. Father will want to see you in the morning. Camilla's already demanding a formal apology. She's saying you undermined her authority, that you're causing division in the family. Kate felt a flicker of anger reignite. She caused this. Not me. I believe you. But Father won't see it that way. Not at first. Camilla's very good at playing the wounded party, and let her play it. I'm done pretending. There was a long silence. Kate could feel William weighing his options. His loyalty to his father, his duty to the crown, his love for her. I'll be there tomorrow, he said finally. Whatever happens, I'm with you. Kate's throat tightened. Thank you. Get some sleep. You're going to need it. Call ended. Kate set the phone down and sat on the edge of her bed. Her hands were shaking now. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving exhaustion in its wake. But beneath the exhaustion, something else was growing. A quiet, steely determination. She had spent years learning the rules of Palace's life. The careful diplomacy. The silent sacrifices. The art of disappearing when necessary and smiling when required. But those rules were designed to protect the institution, not the people inside it. And tonight, Kate had decided she was done being sacrificed for someone else's comfort. She pulled her phone back out and scrolled through her contacts. She stopped at a familiar name. A journalist. Someone she had known for years. Someone she trusted. Her finger hovered over the call button. This was the line. Once she crossed it, there was no going back. The palace would never forgive her. Camilla would see it as an act of war. But Kate thought about that moment in the study. The cold command in Camilla's voice. The expectation that Kate would simply obey. That she would bow her head and accept whatever narrative was forced upon her. No, not anymore. Kate pressed the button. The phone rang twice before a woman's voice answered, groggy and confused. Hello? Sarah, it's Kate. I'm sorry to call so late, but I need your help. There was a rustling sound. Sarah was suddenly very awake. Kate, what's going on? Are you okay? I'm fine, but I need to tell you something. Off the record for now, but I want you to be ready, because in the next 48 hours, there's going to be a story. And I want to make sure it's the truth. What kind of story? Kate took a breath. The kind that changes everything. Morning light spilled through the tall windows of Buckingham Palace. Kate sat in the antechamber outside the king's private office, her posture perfect, her expression calm. But inside, her mind raced. She had barely slept. After her call with Sarah, she had spent hours rehearsing what she would say. How she would explain herself. How she would defend her actions without appearing defensive. But every scenario ended the same way. With the king choosing Camilla over her, the door opened. The king's private secretary appeared, his face carefully neutral. The king will see you now. Your Royal Highness? Kate stood and walked through the door. The king sat behind his desk, his hands folded in front of him. His face was drawn, tired. He looked older than he had just a week ago. The weight of the crown, Kate thought, or the weight of his wife's anger. Camilla sat in the chair to his right. Her posture was regal, controlled, but her eyes burned with cold fury. Kate stopped in the center of the room. She didn't sit, didn't wait to be offered a chair. Kate. The king's voice was measured, careful. I've been hearing troubling reports about last night. I'm sure you have. Kate replied evenly. Camilla's jaw tightened. Your tone is not appropriate. Kate turned her gaze to the queen consort. Neither was summoning me to your study at midnight to berate me. The king raised a hand. Please, let's remain civil. Civil. Kate's voice stayed calm, but there was steel beneath it. I was summoned alone, late at night, and treated like a subordinate who needed to be corrected. I was accused of sabotaging the queen consort simply by existing in a viral video. And when I refused to apologize for something I didn't do, I was threatened. You walked out, Camilla said sharply. In the middle of a conversation? That is disrespectful to the crown. You are not the crown, Kate said quietly. You are the king's wife, and respect is earned, not commanded. The room went silent. The king's eyes widened slightly. Camilla's face flushed red. How dare you, Camilla breathed. Kate didn't flinch. How dare I? What? Tell the truth? Stand up for myself? Refuse to be bullied in the middle of the night? This is insubordination, Camilla hissed. Charles, are you going to allow her to speak to me this way? The king looked between them, his expression pained. Kate, you must understand. Camilla is the queen consort. She has a position that must be respected. And I am the Princess of Wales, Kate replied. The future queen, and I will not be treated like a servant. No one is treating you like a servant, the king said, frustration creeping into his voice. But there are protocols. There is a hierarchy. Then let's talk about hierarchy. Kate's voice remained steady, but her eyes were fierce. The public doesn't revere Camilla the way they revere William and me. The polls show it. The crowds show it. Every appearance, every event, the people want us. Not her. That is enough, the king said sharply. But Kate wasn't finished. You want me to fall in line? To apologize. To pretend that I'm the problem? But the real issue is that Camilla is threatened by me. By my popularity. By the fact that the people see me as the future of this family, and she cannot stand it. Camilla stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. I will not sit here and be insulted, and leave, Kate said simply. The king's face went pale. Kate, that is completely out of line, is it? Kate turned to him. Or is it out of line for your wife to summon me like a disobedient child and demand I grovel at her feet? Where do you draw the line, Charles? When does protecting her ego stop being more important than treating me with dignity? For a moment, the king said nothing. He looked at Kate with something close to desperation, as though he wanted to side with her but couldn't. Wouldn't. I think he said slowly that we all need to take a step back. This has escalated beyond reason. It escalated the moment she sent that note, Kate said. This didn't start with me. I'm just the first one to stop pretending. Camilla's voice was icy. If you cannot show proper respect, then perhaps you don't belong in this family. The words hung in the air like a grenade. Kate felt the impact of them. The threat beneath. The suggestion that she could be cast out. Stripped of her title, her position, her children's future. It was the ultimate power play. And Camilla had played it in front of the king, knowing he would have to respond. Kate looked at the king, waited. He said nothing. And in that silence, Kate understood. He would not defend her. Not fully. Not when it came down to choosing between his wife and his daughter-in-law. She had been right to call Sarah last night. I see, Kate said softly. She turned and walked toward the door. We're not finished, Camilla called after her. Kate paused, her hand on the door handle. She glanced back over her shoulder. Yes, she said. We are. And for the second time in 12 hours, Kate walked out on the queen consort. But this time, the king was watching. Kate drove herself back to Kensington Palace. No driver, no security escort. Just her, the car, and the weight of what she had just done pressing down on her chest like a stone. Her phone buzzed constantly. Palisades. The king's secretary. Messages marked urgent. She ignored them all. William was waiting when she arrived. He stood at the entrance, his face tight with worry. The moment she stepped out of the car, he pulled her into his arms. I heard, he said quietly. Father called me 10 minutes ago. Kate closed her eyes and breathed him in. It's done. He said you disrespected Camilla in front of him? That you questioned her authority? I told the truth, Kate said, pulling back to look at him. She threatened to have me removed from the family, and your father said nothing. He just sat there. William's jaw clenched. He said that. She said it. He allowed it. William turned away, running a hand through his hair. This is a disaster. No. Kate's voice was firm. This is clarity. Now we know where we stand. Now we know that when it comes down to it, he will choose her over us. Over you. Over our children, Kate, he's the king. We can't what? Stand up for ourselves. Refuse to be treated like pawns? William, if we don't draw a line now, this will only get worse. Camilla will keep pushing, keep testing, until we're so diminished that we're irrelevant. William stared at her, conflict written across his face. She could see the battle inside him. Duty versus love. Tradition versus truth. What do you want to do? He asked finally. Kate took a breath. I want to tell our side of the story. Before Camilla spins this into something it's not, you want to go public? Not publicly, not yet. But I've spoken to Sarah. She's ready to listen. Off the record for now. But if this escalates, if Camilla tries to destroy me, I want the truth out there. I want people to know what really happened. William's eyes widened. Kate, if you leak this, there's no coming back. The palace will see it as treason. Oh. And if I don't, they'll paint me as the villain. They'll say I'm difficult, unstable, that I attacked the queen consort without cause, and the public will believe it because they always believe the palace first. Not always, William said quietly. They didn't believe them about my mother. The words landed between them like a bomb. Diana, the people had loved her, and the palace had tried to destroy her reputation, but in the end, the public had seen through the lies. Exactly, Kate said. The people know when something isn't right. And if we trust them with the truth, they'll stand with us. William looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Okay, but we do this carefully. No public statements yet. We wait to see how Camilla plays it. If she tries to leak a false narrative, then we respond. Agreed. Pulled her close again. I'm sorry. I'm sorry Father didn't defend you. It's not your fault. He's putting his marriage above his duty, above the future of the monarchy, and that's going to have consequences. Kate said nothing. She knew William was right, but she also knew that those consequences would fall hardest on them. The next morning, The first story appeared. It was in a mid-tier tabloid, attributed to an anonymous palace source. The headline read, "Princess Kate's Late-Night Tantrum. Palace insiders reveal growing concerns about future queen's behavior." Kate read it over breakfast, her coffee growing cold in her hand. The article painted her as emotional, erratic, and disrespectful. It claimed she had stormed out of a private meeting with senior royals after refusing to accept guidance. It suggested she was struggling with the pressure of her role. There was no mention of Camilla's midnight summons. No mention of the threat. No mention of the king's silence. It was a masterpiece of manipulation. William read it beside her, his face darkening with every paragraph. "This is Camilla. This has her fingerprints all over it." "Of course it does," Kate said quietly. "She's making the first move, establishing the narrative before I can. So we respond."
Not yet.
Kate set the paper down. "She wants me to react emotionally, to lash out. To prove that I'm unstable, we wait. Let her overplay her hand, and if more stories come out, then we let them. Because the more desperate she looks to tear me down, the more people will start asking why." William looked at her with something close to awe. "When did you become so ruthless?" Kate smiled faintly. "When I realized that being kind and silent was getting me nowhere." Over the next 2 days, 3 more articles appeared, each one more vicious than the last. Each one from anonymous sources, each one painting Kate as a threat to palace stability. But something unexpected started happening. The public didn't believe it. Social media erupted with support for Kate. People questioned why the palace was leaking against her. They pointed out the timing, the anonymity, the coordinated nature of the attacks. They remembered Diana, and they smelled blood in the water. The tide was turning, and Kate hadn't said a single word. By the end of the week, the palace was in crisis mode. The negative articles had backfired spectacularly. Instead of turning the public against Kate, they had turned the public against the palace. Hashtags supporting Kate trended worldwide. Petitions demanding transparency circulated with thousands of signatures. News outlets that had initially run the palace-sourced stories were now running pieces, questioning who was behind the smear campaign, and through it all, Kate remained silent. It was the most powerful move she could have made. Her silence forced people to fill in the blanks themselves. And what they imagined was far more damaging to Camilla than anything Kate could have said. On Thursday morning, Kate received a summons. Not a handwritten note this time. A formal request, delivered by the king's private secretary in person. "His Majesty requests your presence at Clarence House this afternoon, 2 o'clock. Kate looked up from the children's playroom where she had been building blocks with Prince Louis. "Will the Queen Consort be present?" The secretary hesitated. "I believe so, ma'am, and I will attend. But Prince William will accompany me." His Majesty requested. "I am not negotiating," Kate said calmly. "William will be there, or I will not." The secretary nodded stiffly and left. At 2 o'clock, Kate and William arrived together. They walked into Clarence House side by side, a united front. The king was in the drawing room. Camilla sat beside him, her expression carefully neutral. But Kate could see the tension in her shoulders, the tightness around her eyes. The king stood when they entered. "William, Kate, please sit." They sat. The king resumed his seat, glancing at Camilla before speaking. "I think we can all agree," he began, "that this past week has been unfortunate." "For everyone involved," unfortunate, Kate repeated quietly. "That's one word for it." Camilla's lips pressed together. "The press has been intolerable. They've twisted everything. They've reported what they were given," Kate said evenly. "By palace sources. Are you accusing me of leaking to the press?" Camilla's voice was sharp. "I'm stating a fact. Multiple articles, all from anonymous sources, all painting me as unstable and insubordinate." "The coordination is obvious. It's a serious allegation," the king said. "It's the truth," William interjected. "And we all know it." The king sighed heavily. "This is exactly what I was hoping to avoid. More conflict. More division." And perhaps, Kate said, "the conflict should have been avoided at the beginning. When Camilla summoned me at midnight to berate me, When she threatened my place in this family. When you sat silent and allowed it. The king's face reddened. I did not allow anything. I was trying to mediate. You were trying to appease your wife, William said bluntly. At Kate's expense. At our expense? William, that's not fair, isn't it? William leaned forward. Father, you've asked Kate to come here? To sit down and discuss this. But what exactly are we discussing? Whether she should apologize for defending herself? Whether she should bow her head and accept being treated like a problem? Camilla spoke then, her voice cold. What we are discussing is whether the Princess of Wales understands her role in this family. Whether she understands that the institution is larger than any one person's feelings. I understand my role perfectly, Kate said. I'm the future queen consort, the mother of the future king, and I represent this family to millions of people who expect dignity, honesty, and integrity, not manipulation and power games. How dare you know? Kate's voice cut through Camilla's protest like a knife. How dare you? You have spent this week trying to destroy me through whispers and leaks. You thought I would crumble, that I would apologize, that I would disappear quietly while you positioned yourself as the victim. This is absurd, Camilla said, looking at the king. Are you going to allow her to speak to me this way? The king opened his mouth, then closed it. He looked between his wife and his son, clearly torn. William stood. If you're going to ask Kate to choose between her dignity and her place in this family, then you should know that she won't be making that choice alone. Where she goes, I go. The room went deathly still. The king stared at his son, shock written across his face. William, you can't mean that. I do, William said firmly. If Kate is forced out, I leave with her. If she's pushed aside, I step aside. We are a partnership, and I will not stand by and watch her be sacrificed to protect Camilla's ego. Camilla stood now, her face pale. You would abandon your duty? Your birthright? I would choose my wife, William said simply. Just as you chose yours, father. The king looked as though he had been struck. His eyes moved between William, Kate, and Camilla, the weight of the decision pressing down on him visibly. Finally, he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. What do you want? Kate stood. I want the leaks to stop. I want Camilla to understand that I am not her subordinate. And I want your word that this will never happen again. That I will never be summoned in the middle of the night, threatened, and then smeared when I refuse to comply. And if I agree to this? The king asked. Then we move forward, Kate said. As a family, with clear boundaries and mutual respect. And if I don't? William's voice was steel. Then you'll be choosing between your wife and your son. And history will remember which one you picked. The silence stretched out, heavy and suffocating. Then the king nodded slowly, defeated. Very well. The leaks will stop. You have my word. Kate looked at Camilla. The queen consort's face was a mask of barely contained fury. But she said nothing. Kate turned to leave. William followed. As they reached the door, the king called out, Kate. She paused. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I should have defended you from the beginning. Kate looked back at him. Yes, she said. You should have. And then she was gone. 3 weeks passed. The leaks stopped abruptly. The negative stories dried up overnight. A carefully worded statement appeared in the court, circular announcing that the Prince and Princess of Wales would be taking on additional royal duties in the coming months. The palace photographers captured images of Kate looking radiant at a children's hospital opening. The public ate it up. On the surface, everything returned to normal, but beneath the polished exterior, everything had changed. Kate stood in her dressing room at Kensington Palace, preparing for a state banquet. Her gown was midnight blue, elegant and regal. Diamonds glittered at her throat. She looked every inch the future queen. William appeared behind her in the mirror, adjusting his bow tie. You ready? Always, Kate said with a small smile. Camilla will be there tonight, he said carefully. Father wants us all to appear united. Kate met his eyes in the reflection. Then we'll appear united. But things are different now. She knows that. He knows that. Do you think she'll try again? Another power play? Kate turned to face him. Probably, but not for a while. She knows the cost now. She overplayed her hand, and it nearly destroyed her reputation. She won't risk that again soon. William pulled her close. I'm proud of you. You stood your ground when most people would have folded. I had no choice. She gave me none. That's not true. You could have apologized. Could have played it safe. But you didn't. You fought back. Kate rested her head against his chest. I was terrified the entire time. I kept thinking, what if the public turned on me? What if I was wrong? But you weren't wrong. And the public saw that. They saw through the palace games because you stayed silent and let the truth speak for itself. The silence was the hardest part, Kate admitted. Every instinct told me to defend myself, to release a statement, to fight back publicly. But you didn't. That's what made it powerful. You didn't need to say anything. Your dignity said it for you. Kate pulled back and looked at him. What happens now? Do we just pretend this never happened? We move forward, William said, with clearer boundaries, with the knowledge that we can stand up to them if we need to. And with the public on our side, the public is fickle. Maybe, but they remember. They remember Diana. They remember what the palace did to her. And they won't let it happen again. Not to you. Kate nodded slowly. She picked up her clutch and took a breath. Then let's go be united. The state banquet was held at Buckingham Palace. The room glittered with chandeliers and jewels. Dignitaries from around the world mingled with members of the royal family. Photographers captured every moment Kate and William entered together. The room seemed to pause, all eyes turning toward them. Kate kept her expression serene, her posture perfect. Beside her, William was steady and strong. Across the room, Camilla watched. Their eyes met for a brief second. In that glance, an entire conversation passed. A recognition of the new balance of power. An understanding that the rules had changed. Camilla looked away first. The king approached them, relief evident in his face. You both look wonderful. Thank you, Father, William said. The king hesitated, then leaned closer to Kate. I meant what I said. I should have protected you. Kate's voice was quiet but firm. Yes, you should have. But you didn't. And now we all know where we stand. The king flinched slightly but nodded. I hope we can rebuild trust. Trust is earned, Kate said, echoing her words from weeks earlier. Not commanded. She moved past him, William at her side. They made their way through the crowd, greeting guests, posing for photographs, playing their roles flawlessly, but something fundamental had shifted. Kate was no longer the quiet, obedient princess who bent to palace pressure. She was a woman who had stood her ground, faced down threats, and emerged stronger. And everyone in that room knew it. Later that night, after the banquet had ended and they had returned home, Kate stood on the balcony of Kensington Palace. The London skyline glittered in the distance. William joined her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. What are you thinking? He asked. Kate was quiet for a moment. I'm thinking about the future, about our children, about the kind of monarchy they'll inherit, and I'm thinking that maybe this needed to happen. Maybe I needed to stop being afraid, stop playing by their rules. Because if I don't stand up for myself now, what example am I setting for George, Charlotte, and Louis? William smiled. You're setting an extraordinary example. You're showing them that even in a system built on tradition and hierarchy, you can still have dignity. You can still have a voice. I was so scared, Kate said softly. I thought I might lose everything. But you didn't. You gained something. Power. Real power. Not the kind that comes from a title. The kind that comes from standing your ground when everyone expects you to fall. Kate turned to look at him. Camilla will never forgive me for this. Probably not. But that's her problem, not yours. And your father? He'll learn. He'll have to. Because the alternative is losing us. And he knows the monarchy can't survive that. Kate leaned into William's embrace. For the first time in weeks, she felt truly at peace. The battle had been brutal. The cost had been high. But she had won something invaluable. Her voice. Her power, her truth, and in the grand gilded cage of royal life, those were the rarest treasures of all. Behind them, through the windows of Kensington Palace, their children slept peacefully, unaware of the storms their mother had weathered, unaware of the battles she had fought in the shadows. But someday they would know. Someday they would understand that their mother had been brave when bravery was required, that she had stood tall when others tried to make her small, and they would carry that strength forward into the future, into a new kind of monarchy, one built not on silence and submission, but on courage and truth. The game had changed, and Kate had changed it. The Queen Consort's late-night command had backfired, and in the ashes of that miscalculation, Kate had forged something unbreakable, a crown of her own making, not of gold or jewels, but of steel and fire and the unshakable knowledge that she would never bow again.